Warning, this episode contains content that may be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Some people will do just about anything to get into the spotlight, including taking another person's life. The disturbing premeditation of two teenage boys, the girl who saw them as friends, and damning video evidence. All this and more on this episode of Seriously Strange Caught on Camera. High school, a place where academic dreams start, a place where you can discover your talents and where friendships are formed and broken. Pocatello High School in Idaho was that place for popular and well-liked student 16-year-old Cassie Jo Stoddart. While Cassie was social, she never let that get in the way of her schoolwork. She was a straight-A student who shied away from any partying, alcohol, or drugs, but still kept her sense of humor, and was friendly to all students spanning the broad spectrum of high school cliques, which was how she came to know classmates Brian Lee Draper and Tori Adamczyk. Brian had relocated from Utah to the small town where he met and immediately connected with Tori, and the two became fast, fierce friends, in addition to Cassie, who they met in class while joking around. However, 16-year-old Brian couldn't ignore his attraction to Cassie, just as he couldn't ignore the fact she was dating another classmate. But he kept his affections unspoken, and they remained friends, though no one could have predicted the sinister plan Brian and Tori were concocting, nor the horrific events that would follow, and the lives that would change forever. Some people find inspiration in the most disturbing of places. Brian had always admired the Columbine shooters, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, mainly for the attention they received because of their actions. Brian was a teenager who felt invisible to his peers and to the girl he liked, and desperately craved the spotlight. But he wasn't alone in his fascination with the darker side of life. Tori was obsessed with the murders in the movie Scream and wanted to replicate a similar murder in real life. Combined, the two decided to enact a plan that would earn them great notoriety. They were going to kill a classmate, and they decided Cassie Stoddart was the perfect victim. Chilling video footage shows the boys eagerly and excitedly discussing their plans to murder their friend.
September 20th, 2006, we're skipping our 4th hour. We're having our plan right now. I'm telling Cassie's family, GID number 1, we have to stick with the plan. Our plan is supposed to happen tonight. So hopefully nothing will go wrong, everything will go smoothly, and we can get our first kill done and started, and we can keep going. She's perfect, so she's gonna die.
It was Friday, September 22nd, 2006, and Cassie was looking forward to her weekend. She was house-sitting for her aunt and uncle until Sunday. She invited her boyfriend Matt over and told Brian and Tori they should all watch a movie together. Cassie wouldn't be alone like Tori and Brian had hoped, but the duo had planned for this scenario and intended to lure Matt outside to kill him first before moving on to their intended victim. Court transcripts of their video show they even had other intended victims that night and were going for a high body count. Nothing was going to deter them from pursuing their plan of going down in history. Before heading to the house, Brian and Tori stopped at a local pawn shop and purchased 4 knives, then filmed themselves in the car on the way to meet with Cassie, clearly excited about the prospect of not only killing their friend, but terrorizing her in the process.
Hell, you restrict somebody from it, they're gonna want it more.
We found our victim, and sad as it may be, she's our friend. But you know what? We all have to make sacrifices. Our first victim is going to be Cassie Stoddart. She's going to be alone in a big, dark house out in the middle of nowhere. How perfect can you get? We know there's lots of doors. There's lots of places to hide. I unlocked the back doors. It's all locked. Now we just gotta wait.
When they arrived at the house, they only stayed long enough for Brian to sneak around and lock the doors to prevent Cassie's escape. Then they departed, telling Cassie and Matt that they'd rather go out and watch a movie at the theater. But Tori and Brian never went to the theater. They hid outside, waiting for the right moment to strike. Matt's mother eventually arrived and took him home, leaving Cassie all alone. The duo saw their opportunity and set their sinister plan into motion. They cut the power to the house, donned their masks, and took up their knives, and to scare their victim further, loudly slammed the door once they entered. The two converged on a terrified and screaming Cassie, and both partook in stabbing her a total of 29 times before fleeing the scene, leaving their friend to die alone. Minutes later, driving away from the house, they pulled out the camera to record their triumphant aftermath.
I just killed Cassie. We just left her house. This is not a fucking joke.
I'm shaking.
I stabbed her in the throat and I saw her lifeless body just disappear. Dude, I just killed Cassie.
Brian and Tori had bought movie tickets, hoping that they would serve as an alibi, and buried the murder weapons, masks, gloves, and all other evidence in a hole in Black Rock Canyon. Brian and Tori enjoyed their weekend as if it were any other weekend. However, their days of freedom were numbered. Cassie's aunt and uncle returned home Sunday, but it was their daughter, Cassie's 13-year-old cousin, who discovered the body and crime scene in the living room. The police were immediately called, and questioning Cassie's boyfriend led them straight to Brian and Tori. Under fierce interrogation and without a solid alibi, the two eventually cracked and confessed, with both boys trying to blame the murder on the other, like a couple of cowards. Brian led police to the evidence, where they were shocked to discover the tape, and were even more horrified by its contents. The evidence against Tori and Brian was damning, and the tape that was meant to bring them fame and glory instead was the final nail in their coffin. In court, Brian and Tori argued that the tape was merely a joke, the first scenes of a horror movie they were making, but after seeing the crime scene photos and watching the tape for themselves, the jury decided otherwise. In 2007, both Brian and Tori were convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and would serve a life sentence for each charge without the possibility of parole. At their sentencing, they both gave tearful apologies, acknowledging their heinous acts, but judges during later appeals didn't buy it, nor the argument by Tori's lawyer that the sentence was cruel and unusual punishment for an adolescent. But the guilty verdict did nothing to heal the wounds of Cassie's devastated family and friends. Cassie's cousin suffered a breakdown and tried to kill herself, while her aunt and uncle fell into a deep depression, unable to sell a house that no longer felt like home. Friends at Cassie's school constructed a mural in her honor and adorned her grave with flowers, remembering the love Cassie shared with all who knew her, and mourning the future that she would never have. That's all for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to my channel now, because you won't want to miss what's next. Also, keep the lights off and tune into the last episode either by pressing on screen or pressing the link in the description below this video. And I'll see you next Wednesday.